on this episode of the Girl Talk Podcast.
You're not failing if it's hard. It's just hard. But God will get you through. He will. But but you really need to be leaning on him and letting other people help.
Hello there. You are listening to the Girl Talk Podcast, brought to you by our friends at Fox Toyota of East Tennessee. My name is Carol.
I'm Kelly.
My name's Trisha.
Thanks for joining us today. We're going to dive deep into the subject of caring for aging parents and or family members. Whoo-wee. I already feel heavy.
Yes.
But that's okay, because we like to tackle hard stuff here. You know, there's no easy way to kind of dive into this topic, because I think we always see our parents, at least I did. I always saw my parents as the same age, even as I aged.
Sure.
Yes.
And then there
So
was
true.
like one day I woke up and they were feeble. You know, I mean, it just you just never think of your parents when you're growing up, and even as you become an adult and you know, move through different stages of your life. I don't think we're always aware that they're declining until, you know, you have that
Until they fall.
incident, or until they fall, or till something happens, and then you're like, oh my goodness, that like happened overnight. So I think probably the three of us have dealt with it enough to come up with some good practical stuff to pass along to you. If you are blessed enough right now to still have both of your parents, you are a blessed person. Enjoy every moment with them. And but I would also say, if you have them and they're healthy, don't let that lull you to sleep, because you've got to have a healthy support system for the years that are ahead. That's one of the things that I wish somebody had said to me, 10, 15 years ago. Like, have you thought about this? Because I never wanted to think about it. And I think it's something that we don't want to think about. We naturally just want to, say, oh, they're going to be great forever, until they're not, But do you have a healthy support system in place should something happen? Because we all need to have that for us, but especially when it comes to our parents.
And don't pass up any moment
Right.
to do something crazy with your parents. Like go outside and play croquet or walk around the golf course or, do something that 10 years from now they may not be able to do.
Right. Because you think that you've got all the time in the world. I think everybody
And you
thinks
don't.
that way. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You guys are reminding me, I got one of those Facebook memories this week.
Yeah.
This week, last year, was when we took my dad to the beach.
Oh, wow.
And we did take advantage of it. We thought, well, he's doing okay, but let's just go ahead and take that trip now. Where he is today, absolutely he couldn't have gone to the beach.
Yeah.
Had we not done that then we wouldn't have had the experience. So yes, to your point, if you can do it now. Don't wait, because you don't know what a year or even 6 months is going to yield.
Yeah, that is so true. I wonder if we go back to, I don't know, just all this, there's 1,000 things running through my head right now, because once you're in it, it's too late to back up and prepare, And I'm thinking about all the things I wish somebody had told me. And one of the things is take advantage of the opportunities, but just also appreciate the small moments.
Yeah. I'm learning from my son right now about how to do this because he has gone, it's summertime.
Yeah.
He's gone this week to spend time with his grandparents. And my husband's mom is not in good health and doesn't really leave her couch a tremendous amount. But my son, who is not excited about cooking at our house or cleaning at our house or doing dishes at our house, could not wait to go down to his grandparents' house so that he could cook dinner and he could take care of his Nana. And I'm like, that's the kind of enthusiasm I want to have for taking care of my aging parents or my grandparents or, Will's grandparents as they get a little bit older, because I want to be I want to have that kind of enthusiasm he has. He just couldn't wait.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's down there hanging out on the farm. They're hanging out in the garden, and he's spending time with his grandparents that he knows time is short. He knows that he will never be able to get this time back.
Yeah.
I want to learn from that.
Making memories.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I want us to kind of switch gears and say another thing that if you are in the throes of it right now, you're going to look at if you're watching the video, you're going to look at me and go, how do you even do that? But just bear with me. Talk about self-care when you're caregiving. I can't remember the name of the book. I wish I'd written it down. I think it's a 48-hour day or something like that. There's a book specifically about caregiving and people who take care of their loved ones. And I can't underscore enough, because it is so easy, and this happened to me a couple of different times, but when you get so involved in medicines and trying to make sure they get to doctor's appointments and trying to make sure that they're eating right and doing all the things that they need to do, that you forget about yourself in the process. And then something happens to you, and then you're like, oh my goodness, what in the world? And so I would say, if you're in the throes of caregiving, you need to take care of yourself. And I know, because in the middle of it, I was like, how do I even do that? I got a kid, and then I got, different things going on. And I understand that, but it's so important that you continue to take care of yourself in the middle of.
So let's talk about, how do you do that? How do you take care of yourself?
Here's what I wish I knew before I dove into caring for my father. So my mother died quickly and tragically, but she did not have to go through that period of aging and declining. But my dad has. And here's what I wish I knew before, that it is such a loaded experience. It is it's hard. It's emotionally draining. And I wish I knew that. I wish I knew going in how hard it was going to be on some level, so that I could know that I needed to take care of some things. I needed to prepare myself. When I say loaded for me, I think there are times when I think about my dad younger, and then I see him now, and it's very difficult. It brings up things from your past, interactions you had from your past. It's loaded with memories and maybe things that weren't resolved in the past. I find myself thinking about things that I was frustrated with from our past that I didn't even think were bothering me anymore, but yet you find them down there. And so you need the support, you need the love, you need the self-care. Know that it's going to be like that. And then know this, with God's help, you can do it.
Yeah.
You're going to be called upon to do hard things, sometimes gross things, sometimes things that you think, I can never do that. You can.
Yeah.
With God's help, you can. With friends' prayer support, you can. And then another thing that I would like to say with regard to the self-care is let other people help. Let other people help. And I have to tell myself that too. Somebody says, what can I do to help you? Tell them. Yeah. How about dinner?
Yeah.
How about doing a load of laundry? How about picking up my kids so I can have a minute when I get home from having taken care of my dad or whatever?
Yeah.
All of those things, really, they are challenging. And you're not failing if it's hard. It's just hard. So
say that again.
You're not failing if it's hard, because it's just hard.
So good.
But God will get you through. He will. But you really need to be leaning on Him and letting other people help.
Yeah.
That's what I really wish I knew.
Other people help. And that's, I'm not in the same place with caregiving that the two of you ladies are right now. And I know that I want desperately to be able to help the both of you as you're caring for your family members. And I know how much joy it brings me when you give me that opportunity. And so remember that it does that. It brings people incredible amounts of joy to get to help you in your hard times and help you do hard things.
Yeah.
It's not a burden at all to say yes when somebody says, Can I help you?
That's great to know.
Yeah.
That's nice to hear.
It is nice to hear. Yeah, I mean, I feel like we were joking before we started recording that there's a box of tissue in here, and Laura was like, "Are y'all going to cry today?" And we were like, "Oh yeah, we're doing the."
Yeah.
And I feel like I've been dancing around it to
Me
try to
too.
keep from crying. Is that what you're feeling?
Yeah.
Okay, I just had to say that in terms of full disclosure because it is so. You're right. It's just so hard. There's nothing easy about it. Even if whatever the hand you've been dealt, whatever it is that your loved one struggles with, even if it's not as bad as whatever, we do that comparison to other people too. Well, it's not as bad, could be worse. Well, yeah, it could, but that doesn't make today any less hard. And I think of that because, as you were telling the story about a year ago, your dad was at the beach. A year ago, my dad, 4 years ago this week, my dad passed, so Father's Day was awful, and I find myself even now, like, not even truly being able to. It's weird because you know this with grief, it comes in the weirdest waves, and you think you're doing great, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, a wave comes up and knocks you on your tail, and you're like, I don't even know where that came from, and so it's such a weird balance of missing your loved one so much, but still wanting to provide for the other parent. And it's just this give and take and always back and forth. It's so emotionally loaded that, and I would throw this in there. What you shared too is that it's okay if you need somebody to help you process through that, so that you can enjoy that. I think that would be part of self-care. It's okay if you need to sit down with a professional and say, I need to help you to help me process through this so that I can be fully present and do what I need to do to care for them in the best possible way that I can moving forward. It is okay if you need to do that.
Because sometimes we don't feel comfortable sharing some of our deepest thoughts with a friend or a spouse. We don't want them to judge us or judge them. Or a different person is helpful.
And sometimes they're not adequately equipped to help us with some of the coping mechanisms that you need, or some of the ways to deal with those things.
True.
So it's okay. I want to give you that permission if you need to sit with somebody and go process through some things, and then say, okay, now that kind of is settled and I can deal with that, I can deal with this, because it's just a totally different world.
There are many layers, right? It's physical, it's emotional, it's mental, it's spiritual on some levels too. I mean, there's so much going on.
Yeah, and with my father, it was all physical. With my mom, she has dementia, and so it's like it's the difference in. I'm trying really hard here, y'all.
It's okay.
It's the difference in, Dad fell on Father's Day and then died 4 days later. Every time I go see Mom, there's a little bit more of her gone.
Yeah.
And so it's that weird combination of how do I best care for her in this moment when she doesn't know who I am. Those kinds of continual issues that and if you've got somebody in your family with Alzheimer's or dementia, you got to laugh at some things, because if you don't, you'll just cry all the time. You'll just weep, And so my mom has some safety questions that she asks. She'll say, how long have you worked here? I'll say, oh, not that long. We'll have a conversation about that because she doesn't remember. And some of the, conflict that you see is sometimes family members aren't fully ready to embrace that she doesn't remember, and so they feel the need to remind her, like, I'm your daughter, or I'm your friend, or like, okay, so that's when you got to come away and do the work to say, okay, this is part of the disease, this is not who she is, and deal with that. That's the only way. I'm sorry I got so personal there, but that's the only way I know to deal with. If it's a physical problem, it's a whole different ballgame than if it's it's a mental problem, not mental problem, but a cognitive thing.
For sure.
Yeah, it's a different. I think there are different having gone through Dad with his just being physical, he was in his right mind until his very last days, and Mom, with struggling with dementia. It's been two different situations.
Does that make sense? Yes, two extremes. And I think what you're describing is the state of mourning. And when someone passes quickly, the mourning happens in that time frame. But when someone has a cognitive issue or a long running issue where they decline slowly, the period of mourning is extended over while they're still alive.
Right.
You're mourning them on some level while they're still alive.
Yeah.
And so that's really hard to do.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't, they're still there. So you're like, well, I want to be happy they're there, but yet they don't remember me, or they can't do what they did just last week. And so give yourself grace because you're going through an extended period of mourning, and it's just so hard.
Yeah. And I think for me, it was harder too, because my dad was always this big, strong guy, hardworking, businessman. And to see his body decline was so hard because he'd always been, that. And I was helping him get up and move around was so totally different for me because he'd always been that person, in our family. As with Mom, my mom could work for the FBI. She knew how everybody was related and whose kids were who and those kind of things. To see her to struggle in that way now with dementia, is a different kind. And it just is, I don't think there are any two caregiving situations that are even similar. I mean, the only part that you have in common is that you're caregiving,
Yes, very individual.
It's very individual. And it is... I with you was not prepared at how much of an emotional roller coaster it can be. Just one day we're good, we've had a good day, and the next day it's totally different,
And I think this can also have some spiritual ramifications as well.
Sure.
Because, why, God, is this happening? Or maybe you've prayed for healing or didn't happen, or in my case, like when my mom was killed, how could that happen? All of these caring for aging parents situations can have can leave you with some questions for God.
Yeah.
But I think and I believe that God is fine with our questions as long as you take your questions to Him. I think He is fine with honest questions. He's fine with lamenting. We see it in the Bible, in Job, for example, and David. They're calling out to God. They're not questioning God. They're asking God questions. Different. Not questioning God, but asking God questions. And I think God is happy and fine with us asking Him questions, and He will reveal those answers sometimes right away and sometimes not this side of heaven. But He will meet you when you ask those questions.
He also has very big shoulders and can carry burdens that we don't even know really that we have.
Yeah.
And will meet us in that moment to say, if we just give it to Him and say, I can't carry this anymore. I don't even know what I'm doing anymore. I don't know how to care for myself. I don't know how to care for my loved ones. I don't know what I'm doing. Lord, I'm going to give it to you. Help me walk this journey, whatever this journey is.
Yeah. And I think that, most of my life, I've thought that was a passive prayer. And what I mean by that is when I heard people say that before, let me just say, I'll just say 10 years ago. When I heard people say that 10 years ago, that's just a passive thing. I'm just going to give it to the Lord, and it's just you kind of take your hands off. But I'm realizing that that's more of an active thing than we realize, because in that prayer, you are agreeing with God about your limits, and you are allowing Him to kind of do His thing and work through you. If it's truly a prayer of I'm going to lay this down. And it's a very active prayer, actually. But most of us think of it as passive prayer because we are at the end of us. And sometimes that's where we got to get to, But I've learned through the years that prayer is more active than I thought it was before I was
I
involved
agree with
caregiving.
That is, it's hardly anything is that is about the most active thing you can do, and you have to keep doing it.
Yeah.
It's sometimes not a one done kind of thing.
Yep.
So you got to keep doing it. I just, in terms of self-care, things that helped me constantly being protective of my time with God. Even though I'm busy, taking the time to spend with God was a must and is a must when you're caregiving. Exercise. Exercise has been so therapeutic for me.
Yeah.
So therapeutic. When you are doing something really hard, physically, emotionally, spiritually, or all of the above, you need to get some energy out of your body. You need to take care of yourself. Eating good food. You don't, I know it's so easy to just eat yucky food or snack, or you feel bad, so you want to have a donut or something because you think that's going to make you feel better. It will for a minute, but then I found if I would eat better food, then I feel like, okay, I'm at least taking care of myself in that manner. Not always, but if you can try to make a good choice when you can.
Yeah.
And talking to friends, just talking to them. Like Kelly said, that makes me feel better that they want to help. And sometimes the best kind of help you can do is listen. And so talk.
Yeah.
Take those opportunities. Those are things that I have had to do.
Yeah.
Even better
especially
if
in the
you go
middle of
like walk around the neighborhood or
Yeah.
take a walk around the
them.
office here.
Yeah.
And we'll talk. I'll listen, you talk, and
Yeah.
we'll walk and we'll get exercise. And
That's a
if
BOGO.
we take carrots with us,
We got it all right there.
all right there.
I love it. I love it. Hard conversations, and we are in the midst of it. So, we don't have all the answers. So we'd love to hear from you. Speaking of walk, Tricia has released a beautiful podcast that's a prayer walk, and it would be the perfect companion for you if you want to put in your earbuds, get outside on a nice day, preferably in the shade because it's hot right now. But it's a great podcast. We're releasing that as a bonus episode just for you this summer so that you can take a walk, that you can listen to this prayer walk. And Tricia just does a great job leading you through every step of that. So thank you for doing that. I think you're going to love it. Go get it. And we want to help you. We also want to hear from you. If you've got ideas or things that have helped you, you're welcome to email us, girltalk@thelightfm.org. Also want to say thank you to our friends at Fox Toyota of East Tennessee for their support. We couldn't do it without your help. We'll see you next time we gather around these microphones for the next Girl Talk podcast.